here on a farm build today on the mod map Elmcreek 25. And I'm just kind of driving through town. Let me show you where the farm is placed, and I'll take you for a tour around it today, kind of show you the buildings that I used. And this is a farm. It is based off of a real farm, and it's very, very similar based on, you know, the mods that are available at the time. And we are here at my arrival, and this is very close to the starting farm. You can see back there. I'm just after I hit that alright, just getting back up here. There we go. Let the bus go past us. Alright, so here is our field that I built this farm in. So here is Elmcreek 25. And yes, there are two Elmcreek maps out for FS25. And here is the shop area right here. And then your starting farm is same as FS22, that same area. So I placed this build kind of like, pretty close to the center of the map. So it's in field 46. And I do not have enough to buy, but I did purchase that and place it in there. And I really kind of kept the same footprint here. So if I go into the build, you have your main access of the farm right off the main road here. There is this like secondary drive, which I did keep, and it's really nice because you also have access to the back part of the farm here, and then it kind of curves around following the rest of the road, and then you're back up to the front. So I really liked trying to challenge myself to build something in the smaller footprint, and then I utilized everything. And like I said, this is based off of a real farm, and the layout is very, very similar, just for a couple of buildings here and there, but otherwise pretty much spot on. So let me just park my pickup right here, and I'm going to take you from this into this. So here is my custom farm on this field here in Elmcreek 25. So let's hop in the pickup. I'll first just kind of give you a little overview, and then we'll get into some of the buildings and a flyover, all that good stuff. So this is still the main drive right off of kind of the starting farm, and this kind of loops back up to the main road here. All these trees are on the way here. So then the farm kind of tucks around here. There's some extra buildings, everything. And then there is our main operation in the back here. We have a pig / hog operation here. And then it loops all the way. We have some extra buildings back here. And that ties back around to that secondary drive that I showed you in the beginning, and then to our silos here, and then it's all kind of nicely tucked together back up to the front here. So there we go. Kind of a quick little drive-by overview, and let's kind of drive around the farm now. So let me go in here. Oops. What a cool truck. One of the newer mods to come out. Alright, let's hop in the side-by-side here. So this is definitely an upgraded house to the original house in real life. But I've been looking for a map to kind of use with this, and I think it works out quite nicely. You have a lot of like storage, like shop area here, but then it's a little more, you know, robust, and you can, you know, see how it fits right in with this area of the map here. So as you come into the main house here, you have your first pole barn right here, and this is the drive-through one, which is really, really nice. And if I kind of loop around here, I'll show you that. So here's the back part, and it's nice how it's a drive-through shed, but then also, you know, you have access around the side here. You have a fertilizer tank right there, and then we'll kind of go back in here to the right. So here is our main barn in the middle. A little bit different than the real barn in real life, but I kind of liked this one. And if you were kind of making something similar, you could change out this middle barn any which way you want, but it kind of works out nicely here. And then that loops to the back part of the house. You have your dog, a little sauna with some firewood. And then like you have that back part of the garage here to the house, which is nice to get to the middle of the farm here. And then this little pole barn here is a nice little utility shed, and you can go through here, and then you actually have that back door there to get around, and you have access, which is really, really nice. Super convenient, you know, to get back around this way. So I like this little shed, how it was able to be tucked in here, and it fits with the real farm. And then you have your next big storage farm, really. And this barn is quite big, even in real life, but this one actually works. So you have your door on the side there, and then you have your other door to loop around to the other pole barn, which is back there. So it's nicely kind of tucked there. But yeah, this is their other big tractor machine barn right there. And then that comes back to the pig area here. Now, in real life, they do have this little turnaround, which is nice that I was able to kind of get one in here. And it does work, as I've been testing out feeding the pigs here in this stall. And then they do have a little barn here, so that little stucco barn, you know, it works for this. Theirs looks a little bit different, but they do have an open pasture area, so that's what I really wanted to utilize. And you know, this mod works out pretty nicely. You have your little stalls in here for your pigs, and then you get into the rest of the pasture for the pigs here. Alright, and then let's go back here. So there's our pig trailer here. Now on the front part of this mod, just to kind of soften the pig barn, I did add, and you might notice, this white shed right here is actually not part of the pig enclosure. It's actually just a shop. So it's a workshop trigger, but I wanted to put that there because there are a couple other buildings around the pig barn, and this is kind of nice how it kind of softens the stucco look a little bit. And then obviously I have our other farm truck here with our pig trailer. So I like how that turned out. And then next to this, they do have some chickens here. So I put in just a little coop here right in the middle. All right, and coming back around here in this little circle loop, we have the water for the pigs. We have a little slurry, and then we have a little bit of fertilizer And we got our 4020 over there. And then that loops to the underside of the shed, or you can come back around here. We have another little silo here for the pigs. And then we have our large, if I zoom out here, our large grain bins here. And then we have a pig bin here, and this is for actually making and mixing your own pig feed. So I was able to place that here on this build, something that I've been placing on other builds, but finally it's like, you know, workable, like, you know, you can use it. And then up here, this is something new. This is a mod where you can make your own fertilizer. So you put in your byproducts and stuff from your animals, and then coming out of this bin, you can make and have your own fertilizer for your farm. So it was pretty cool. I wanted to get that into this build here. And then coming around by our dryer and bin, you can see I have a semi just sitting here. And then going back out, and yes, there is one more shed out on this farm build, and they utilize this in different ways for attachments and other odds and ends, but I like how this shed, you can access it from this side road here, or kind of driving around our little crop plane and everything, and the little fuel station. Coming back around, so I always cut them off, you can access the shed from this way. So that is super handy and very convenient. So it's not like it's just cut off from, you know, pasture or something. And then I'll just stay off the road here. Then there's a little, you know, fencing area here with some landscaping to kind of section off this part of the build from everything else. Alright, and let's head back up to the main part of the farm here up by the house, and let's jump into the build. Let me show you a couple things and a couple of the buildings if you are interested in building this or interested in getting it from me. Either way. Alright, so I'll hop out of here. And this is the house. Now, it's a very, you know, large house. It has a great interior. You can actually walk in there. It's super detailed, but it's the attachment here with this large shed. So this is just called farmhouse, but really cool, and it has a lot of different options for siding, roofs. But this is how I kind of, you know, oriented the layout of the house and everything. And if you wanted a better view, yes, you could go through and delete, you know, from the starting farm some of these trees, and then that way if you're coming in from town, you'd have a better view of the house. And then off to the left here, this is a pole barn. Now this is part of a pack, but this is the one with the gray trim. There's a bunch on here that you can get. Let me just scroll down. And where is it? Now maybe I passed it. Yep, I must have passed it. There they are. So it's part of a pack, but there's like the beige, there's a blue trim, gray trim, red, white. And I just decided for this one to kind of be in the same color scheme as the house. You know, I decided on the darker gray trim here. So I think it tucks in quite nicely. And then we have our smaller old barn with carport. And that works really nice. And you could switch that middle barn out. And then off to the right, I have another small shed. And this one has the single door around back there. And then this is the small American pole barn from a pack, actually. and I've utilized this a lot of my builds still. I keep coming back to those ones. And then we have our pig enclosure, and this is part of a whole like animal pack that you can get. So just to show you, because if you're looking for this one like specifically, it might be hard to find it, but if you can see here, it's like, oh yeah, there it is. So it's an animals placeable pack mod. There's a bunch on here, you know, if I kind of zoom out. Here's another one. Here's a smaller one. So you could put something like this down, and then you'd have, look at that, like half of the footprint in there. Same thing, a little bigger barn. But yes, so there is a couple in here that you could go with, but it's the Animal Placeables pack. Pretty cool though, and very detailed, and has a lot of, you know, little nuances that I liked. You know, the little huts and everything. I placed the manure in there next to the skid steer, but really cool pack. So yeah, check that out. And then I placed, as I talked about earlier, a little small workshop in front of it just to kind of soften it. And there are a couple other barns around the pig barn in real life. And then I have like a little bin there for placing some of the pig feed if you just want to place it there. Easier access than driving around the farm. And then kind of zooming around, I have the old US chicken coop, followed by a seed tank, and this is part of another pack that you can get that has a bunch in there. And then around here is just a regular West Steel hopper bin. Little water, slurry right there. And then this is the blue silo, which is just for pig feed, actually. So you can mix and make your own pig feed there. And then back around here, this shed is also part of a pack. And there's a couple steel sheds that look very similar on the mod hub. And I can't remember which is which, or which came with which, but like this one, you can see there's only one single door, but I chose the one with the double doors. That way you can get in and out and just drive through. But there's another one on here that I have. Let me see if I can find it fast. And must have passed it again. They look very similar, and it looks like the one from Alma, Missouri. So those are those two that I have. So yeah, alright, I'll probably find it later. Like there's this one, this Meridia one, but looks a little bit different, and it's only a single door. But yeah, there's other ones out there that look like this steel hopper shed, but you know, this is the one that I chose. And then I have this little diesel tank, and then there is a little workshop trigger thing right there. And then followed by a little crop plane. This is also just decoration, by the way. You know, a bunch of little decoration things I like to place around the build. And then this is a fertilizer production mod that I told you about earlier. So you can produce a lot of different things with it, but yeah, utilizing the pig barn and the pig manure and stuff, you can make your own fertilizer. And then I use these bigger kind of flat bottom bins, and it has a little dryer in there. And then I did put a buying station in there, and then followed by just as a regular, you know, liquid fertilizer for storage there. And then that kind of loops back around to the front of the build. So there you go. Oops, there you go. All those trees are in the way. But there you go. A pig slash like hog farm a smaller build than what I'm used to sometimes, but even with it being smaller, I mean, if this was your real farm, this is still quite substantial. You know, it's in that smaller footprint, as you can see, you know, loops to the very edge here of this field, but I think it came out quite nicely. The layout is very condensed, but it makes a lot of sense. You can get around the farm just nicely, and getting the semi through, everything works, and especially with this other access drive. And you can see I kind of painted the textures. So here's the original texture for Elmcreek 25. I painted it the lighter dirt sand. And if you haven't played on Elmcreek 25 here, one cool thing, if I get in John Deere here, hopefully I don't get stuck, but the dirt textures in here are just outstanding. So if you fill up this Parker wagon with full feed, driving it around, you will get stuck 100%. And you know, the real farm is all just dirt, just around the house. You know, it's like crushed gravel, but otherwise it is all dirt. So like, you know, driving around here, it's not a big deal, it's all fine. But then as soon as you drive it on this dirt road here, it really gives you some great, you know, ground textures and deformation. It is really outstanding on this map. And every map is a little bit different if you've been playing on FS25, so you'll know what I'm talking about. But yeah, this is just really cool on 25 for Elmcreek here. So, alright, I'm just going to park that back, just so I don't forget where it is if I'm coming back to this. Alright, and I'll just leave it there. But yeah, really cool build. I really like how this turned out, like I said. Hopefully you liked getting the layout of this build today. And I appreciate you kind of stopping by here. And if you're new to the channel, I'd love to have you tag along with Farming with Nick community here. Check out my other farm builds here on FS25, and feel free to let me know what you think. And also, I'd love to have you kind of tag along with my other playthrough series here on FS25. So thank you again for tuning in here for a quick little tour layout of a pig farm, and a shout out to the subscriber. They actually, I forgot who it was off the top of my head, but it's been a couple months. They asked for a pig farm on Elma, and it was on my last Elma series, which was the northernmost farm. They asked for a build on that, and I put a small like cattle farm up there, and then I was like, well, I'll check out a pig build, and actually it kind of just turned into what my cattle build looked in, you know, what it looked like. So I was trying to think of something a little bit different, and then I came to Elmcreek here and found this field, liked, you know, how it looked and everything, and then kind of just went from there and making this build. And just a shout out to that subscriber. I know they'll know who they are, and just for giving me the idea and something a little bit different, and kind of challenge myself to kind of think outside the box, especially with a small build, but then doing something without cattle either. It's kind of fun to branch out. So thank you again for joining me. Hope you guys liked the layout and everything. And if you're new, like I said, I'd love to have you join the channel, and I hope to see you all on the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.